Hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to be walking you through the steps on how a house is built. I'm Dale Frazell. Welcome to my channel, New Construction Realtor. Here's a typical day in a new construction neighborhood. Let's see how it works. Before I begin, I just want to point out something in building a new home. It's not in a perfect environment. Now, I know that might just sound a little bit too obvious, but you're dealing with situations that some aren't under your control. Mother Nature being one. What time of the year it is that you're building in. How about material supplies, whether there's an abundance of it or shortage. And the last is manpower or labor or craftsmen. Those are always going to be factors that you constantly have to deal with when you're building a house. So the point I'm trying to make is there is always going to be some sort of snafu that goes on during the construction of a new home. It's a given. So the whole reason for kind of spelling that out first, you're going to have patience. That is just the bottom line. It's not like a train that's on a set schedule or an airplane that has to arrive at a certain, it's not that. So it's a different mindset. And the factors that I mentioned earlier are always going to come into play. So patience is the key. Now, another point that I wanted to make is regarding the builder. The builder doesn't get paid till that house is finished. Every month he pays for materials and for labor, for, let's say hypothetically for 6 months. That's a lot of money going out every month for 6 months, and to finally get repaid back in the end at close. So there is no incentive for him to delay it. Today I'm talking about houses that are being built here in the Pacific Northwest. In different parts of the country, different regions, houses are different in some of the construction methods, but they're always going to have more or less the same steps. Now, one other point that I like to make is inspections. Inspections are done by the officials who work for either the town, the city, the county, or whomever the permits were issued from. They come out in different stages of the home to inspect. So you have to have it inspected. There's a card that they sign off on, and you get a record of that. And it's either a green tag or a red tag. If it's green, you go on to the next step. If it's red, you're dead. You fix that. You cannot go on to the next level of construction or the next process with a red tag. And if the builder did do that, they would have to tear everything apart and go all the way back. So they're not going to do it. It's too costly. So just keep that in the back of your mind when I mention inspect it. Number one, permits are issued and temporary power, electric, is set out at the curb. You're going to need power out at the job site. Number two, lay out the house and excavation. Typically, the house is laid out using fluorescent paints or maybe some stakes, and the excavator brings in his equipment to get ready to dig the foundation. Number three, footers. What are footers? Footers are approximately, they can be 16 inches wide, 2 foot, depending on the size of the home and how many stories, but basically it is the footprint of what the house is going to be sitting on onto the ground itself. So you dig out the foundation, the footer goes down there, that is the base, and then the foundation will sit on top of that. So the footer is made up of concrete and rebar, and it is inspected. Very important to have a solid footer for the house so you have no movement, no settling, just keeping the house equally dispersed onto the ground. Number four, the foundation. The foundation sits on the footer, which then the house itself will be sitting on top of that. That's where the framing attaches to the foundation. The foundation is made up of concrete and rebar, and it is inspected. Number five, water lines and sewer lines are trenched from the curb to the home. And yes, they are inspected. Number six, backfill the foundation. Depending on what kind of foundation you have, whether it's a slab, crawl, or basement. Let me talk about basements here for a minute. So a basement, you're going to have window wells for your egress windows. You're going to tar the foundation so you're not going to have any water penetration, and also the footers. So you want to tar that to keep water wicking away from it. And at this point, I highly recommend, if you have a full basement, to put a French drain around it. Number seven, rough plumbing for a basement or a slab. Plumbers will come out and trench for their pipes to connect to the sewer lines. So that would be connecting of any kind of, let's say a sink or a toilet, tub and shower, before you pour the concrete over it. And yes, they are inspected. Crawl space is a little bit different. You don't inspect anything right now because the house hasn't been framed to where it's in the walls. But when you do a basement in the slab of the basement, the floor, or you do a slab where everything is encased in concrete, you want to have all your plumbing drainage put in first before you encase it in concrete. Number 8, concrete flat work. This is typically the pouring of concrete in your garage. If you have a basement, it'll be the basement floor. If you have a slab, this would be the slab. Also the patio and the front porch. It's all flat, so that's why they call it concrete flat work. Number 9, trench electrical conduit from the power source up, say at the street, and also run the gas pipe from the street to the side of the house. Number 10, lumber framing pack is dropped off at the site. This is the lumber that the framers will be using to build a house. Number 11, framers start framing. So depending on the size of the home, it can vary from say a week to 6 months, depending on the complexity of the home itself. And it also depends on the crew, how many people are in the crew. So it's going to vary a little bit, but this is the area, or this is the time that the house is going from start to finish in the framing. I used to call it the skeleton stage. I also wanted to mention, at this time when the framers are working, you don't want other subs in there. It's dangerous. You have open stairwells with no steps in place, people walking or working overhead, lumber dropping, nail guns, nails possibly flying around. And I don't recommend anyone going out there, especially with kids or what have you, going onto the site. There could be little scraps of wood with nails sticking up. It's a dangerous time. So let the framers do their job, and it's a lot safer for everyone overall. Number 12, the framers are going to install the windows, the exterior doors, and the fascia. Fascia is where you have the roof coming down to the end, and it's a board in front of it. It's where you attach the gutters, so that's fascia. Number 13, roofers apply either tar paper or weather shield. They're not shingling, they're just making it dry to the weather at this point. Number 14, plumbers install tubs and showers and start their roughing on the framing section of the house. I know before I mentioned the basement and the slab, which has already been done. Flat work has been done, so that's out of the way. Now these guys, the plumbers, are working on the section of the house that's in the framing. So, and the reason they come in first is because they can pull the studs out of the way that the framers put up. It's kind of, you're going back and forth, but they'll knock a stud out of the wall because they got to fit this big tub shower unit through the walls to get it into place, and then they typically put it back in. So, and at that point too, once they're done with the rough, it will be inspected. Let's take a break here. It can look and sound like chaos in a new neighborhood, but the system works. Be sure to watch part 2 and part 3 to wrap up all the steps for building a home. If you have any questions about new construction or want to know about any new construction homes or neighborhoods, give me a call or leave comments and questions below. I will answer you. It'd be great if you would like and subscribe to my channel. It keeps me going. And hit that notification for new videos I post every week. Watch part 2 for more steps to building a home. Until next time, take care.